Well, good morning. Uh, I really just want to take a minute on this video. I want to keep it kind of short, but on this video, I really want to talk about communication and the importance of communication in ministry, in really anything you lead, in casting vision and getting the point across. I hear people all the time make a comment on, well, we're going to do this, so should we? Should we email? Should we mail? Should we create a poster? Should we do an announcement? What should we do? And the answer is yes. We do them all. Different people are wired different ways. Different people are wired in how they learn, how they communicate, and different people learn best from different forms of communication. And different people use different forms of communication as how they talk. It's really difficult for me. I get on Facebook, and Facebook for me is, well, Facebook now is like the major form of communication amongst a certain generation, and even older folk too that I know. I'm not a big Facebooker guy. I get on Facebook and I post stuff that's going on in my life, and I really do it so that other people can know. I've stepped off of Facebook before, and I had several people tell me, well, Dave, that's how we keep in touch with what you're doing. There were people I served with in other churches and whatnot, so I felt kind of bad that I took that form of communication away from them, and so that they could follow, what's going on in my life, and how God's using me and my family and stuff. So I use Facebook as primarily a one-way out, just to kind of update people on what's going on in Dave's life. But another area I've learned is several of my people I serve with use Facebook, and that's their number one form of communication. So whenever I go to communicate with them, email's probably not the best, but I'll Facebook message them. I don't post it on their wall, but I will do a private message through Facebook. If I want an immediate response from them, I get it when I do that. If I send an email, I don't get an immediate response. So it's learning the people you serve with, the people that in your church or in your company or whatever. It's learning them to know what is the best way to communicate. So yeah, you send it out as a Facebook post, you send it out as a tweet, you send it out as an email, phone calls, letter by snail mail. I mean, when you want to communicate something big, you do it all. You don't just, well, which is the best? So, I mean, even in our life group we're in, everybody in our life group but one person, one family is on Facebook. And so what we did was we created a Facebook life group page. And that's how we communicate, but we know that one couple, that if we're going to communicate with them, we email them or we phone call them. And so it's learning who you lead, who you're around, and the best form of communication. My family, we all have an iPhone. Each one of my wife and my two kids, my wife and I and my two kids. My son lives down in New Orleans. I live in the Wichita area, and my daughter lives in the Kansas City area now. And my kids, I guess they told my wife, they love group messaging. Because once you start a group and you all have iPhones, every text that goes across that group, everybody on the iPhone gets it. Everybody in that group gets it if you have an iPhone. You don't fall out of that group. If you're doing it between an iPhone and an Android group or another type of a smartphone, they'll drop out of a group. So as soon as I start a group, I'll text message the pastoral staff here in a group, and they'll all get it. But then when an Android user will respond back, they drop out. Then they're not responding back to the entire group all the time. So they actually have to respond, create the group again and respond back. So that's a great way that we stay in, communication with our kids and know what's going on. I mean, it's not uncommon every day, probably for, I don't know, 50, 60 texts come across that group from my kids, my wife, from me, updating what's going on. you know. And yeah, we could get on the phone and talk, but it's just an easy form of communication that works well. And we do get on the phone and talk. Last night, my son called me. He called me twice yesterday. Two different things that we need to talk about, not text about. So communication is important. It's not an either or, it's a both and in how you do whatever you communicate. So if you want large participation in an event, then you got to communicate, communicate, communicate. If you're casting vision for your ministry, you communicate, communicate, communicate. I tell my team that I lead that you got to know your vision and why you do what you do, and you have to eat it, drink it, so that you believe in it, and then you have to breathe it, bleed it, everything, vision for what you're doing. That's how you're going to recruit. That's how you're going to gather people to be involved in what God's called you to do, or whatever your purpose is to do. So if I can just communicate that to you guys today, that's my goal. Communicate till you think you've communicated it too much, and then communicate it some more. And that's how you're going to get the word out. And it's how you're going to make a difference in other people's lives. So, hey, just communication was on my heart, and just wanted to communicate to you how to communicate well. So thanks a lot. If you need anything, feel free to respond to this video or on my blog. Ask me any questions you may have. And thanks so much, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.